surrounded by wrestling fans. Not sports entertainment fans. Professional wrestling fans! Professional wrestling! This is it! This is us standing up! This is
the Wrestling Matters Podcast, a podcast that stands up for professional wrestling. Why? Because wrestling matters. So join the revolution, because the revolution is now. Hey, start the show.
World, look into my eyes. When you see me on a show, when you see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world. We are ICW and you're gonna know our name. Here we fucking go!
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
Professional wrestling! This is it! This is us standing up!
Yes! 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 Yes!
That's 13-14!
Make it till death!
Dina, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line! The Stone Cold Simpson!
Ladies, gentlemen, welcome. And ICW fans as well, welcome to another installment of the ICW podcast. Now, if you've tuned in for Fringe Night 3, you'll have to come back next week, because that's when it's going to be, next week. I've decided to put the little Fringe Night series that I was doing on hold for a week, because I'm going to review this week Shug's Hoose Party. Now, the reason why I'm reviewing this is because this coming Saturday, this is now the 21st of July, this coming weekend, it is Shug's House Party 2. And, yeah, it's going to be a big night. A huge night, in fact. For the coming weekend. This coming weekend. The weekend of the 25th and 26th, which I believe is the 26th of July, is going to be. So, this is the 21st, and hopefully this will whet your appetite a little bit to find out into going into Shug's House Party 2. If you're going, congratulations on going. I'll be seeing Shug's House Party 2, no doubt, when it comes up on the ICW On Demand service. Thank you God for the On Demand service. It's headlined a few matches that are taking place this coming Shug's House Party 2 are Wolfgang versus Rhino. Yes, Rhino from WWE and NXT and whatever. Demo challenges Drew Galloway for the world title. Chris Renfrew and Dickie Divers for the briefcase in a ladder match. And I believe, unless it's been changed, but I believe Teenage Bram will go one-on-one with Grado. Member 55 Bram against Grado. So I believe he challenged him at Barramania for that. So look forward to that. But without further ado, we'll get into reviewing and taking you through and whetting your appetite, hopefully, with number 1, which took place July 27th, 2014. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark Dallas's birthday. So, probably the best birthday he's ever had. With that being said, Liam Thompson comes out with Carmel and says he does not want to wait for his match with Kid Fight and wants to do it now. He wants the I Quit match right now. Kid Fight comes out, goes for Liam, bell rings, but Liam has second thoughts, walks up the aisle and quits. Mind Games by Liam Thompson. Kid Fight is pissed, gets the fans to call him a shitebag. Kid Fight vows to get him and have the match later on in the evening, and one security puts his hands on Kid Fight and pays the price by getting the piss slapped out of him. So, with that being said, we'll move on to the 0G title match, which is Mark Coffey, the reigning champion, against Solar. Mark says Solar will not be competing, runs his mouth, and says he is the best in the world. Chris Toll comes out, Mark Dallas's right-hand man comes out, dressed as CM Punk. Yes, you heard me correct. Go figure who that is. The mini-me of CM Punk, so to speak. And Jackie Polo comes out, doing his best Paul Heyman impersonation. Mark boots him and pins him anyway to the match, and Solar comes down for his match. Solar attacks him from the start, quickness advantage with Solar. Mark making Solar chase him, but Solar dives on him to cut that off. Standing moonsault gets Solar a near fall. Mark slows down Solar with a knee and a clothesline. Mark gets a near fall. Hard chops on Solar from Mark. A hard-hitting wrestler Mark Coffey is. Mark power slams Solar. Solar throwing kicks on Mark. Hits a spin kick and gets a near fall. Dead wish forehand, then deadlift back suplex with cradle. Mark gets a near fall. Solar gets a near fall, then hits a super kick, then hits the DDT off the top and gets a near fall off that. Back suplex. Cradle gets a near fall, then a pump handle power slam gets Mark the win and retains the 0G title. Good little match. Right, the Bucky boys come out for their match, or supposedly their match. Davey Boy says he cannot compete and says that they will be vacating the titles. Wee-Man does his thing also, the introduction and, his usual shindig, if you will. And all that goes down until the NAK come out and Chris mocks Davey, calls out Wolfgang, calls out the back, calls out backup, who's gonna fill in rather for the Bucky boys. Wolfgang music plays, another NAK mind games, and they show footage of them beating Wolfgang in his bar that he works at, or owns, for that matter. Wee-Man mocks NAK and has an idea from Kaylee Ray taking Davey's place and says they will defend the belts. Onto the match. NAK attack Davey, then Bucky's match is on. NAK beat up Stevie Boy. Kaylee Ray goes to work on Darkside. Chris uses a chair on Stevie Boy in trouble. NAK in total control. Chris uses a chair. Stevie Boy in Davey Boy. Sorry, there's a lot to read. Davey Boy comes out with a bucket and uses it, hits Dickie with the DVD-ROM. Darkside works on the leg. BT unloads on Stevie, but BT takes a heel kick, then a drop kick. Chris stops Stevie Boy. Running standing star press on Chris by Stevie Boy. Kaylee Ray, Stevie dive on Chris and BT on the outside. Toe-to-toe with hard kicks. BT got the advantage. Kaylee Ray hits a top rope Hurricane Rana on Chris. Kaylee Ray springboards into a clothesline from Chris, or on Chris. NAK look to isolate Kaylee Ray. BT hits a senton on Ray, gets a near fall. Springboard forearm on Chris. Kaylee Ray gets a near fall. Sit out bomb gets Chris a near fall. Stevie unloads on Chris, then dives on him. Sit out spine buster gets a near fall for BT on Ray. Kaylee Ray goes up top, takes a kick, then BT takes a front suplex and then a drop kick to the spine area. Kaylee Ray gets a near fall. BT hits a F5 into a face buster, which is like he gets him up in the F5 move. He spins it round, but then he takes the face bump right between the legs like he was taking a face buster kind of move, and gets a near fall. A bit of a miscue, because everybody thought it was 3, and even the back thought it was 3. Kaylee Ray hits gory bomb, hits a senton and gets a near fall. Chris drop kicks Kaylee Ray off the second rope, gets a near fall. Kaylee Ray pushes Chris off the second rope. Chris takes a cutter from Stevie Boy. Stevie Boy gets a near fall on that. Stevie Boy and Kaylee Ray hit coast to coast on the NAK, both getting near falls. They go for 3CS, which I believe is the 3D move. Their finisher. Chris stuns Stevie Boy. BT kicks Kaylee Ray. Chris and BT win the tag titles for the NAK. Post-match beatdown by NAK. They even hit Killer Boots on Wee-Man. Davey Boy comes out, but BT hits him with the belt and works the leg. Bucky boys get destroyed by the NAK. Now for a little bit of a flashback, ICW style, so to speak. Mark Dallas comes out and announces a show at the garage in Glasgow and does his own usual show, announces that where the shows are going to be, announces the Fear and Loathing show which took place that year as well and where it was going to be. Then Bobby Johnson comes out Stone Cold Bobby Johnson, that is. Mark gives him the night off and says he cares about him, likes the face ICW. Mark cares, then tells him, Bobby likes the fact that he ICW Mark care, and then tells him to kiss his ass and stuns him. Then asks the crowd if he wants to do things the hard way, and should he continue to do things the hard way. The crowd chant, "Fuck yeah," and then he attacks Mark Dallas and gets arrested by the security and whoever else was there. When have I seen that before? Oh yeah, 1997, Madison Square Garden, Austin McMahon. And from what it seemed the ABC in Glasgow was turned into the MSG in New York City, or became New York City. I don't know. But other than that, it was a great little segment. It was funny. I'd love to know what WWE thought of it if they saw it. But anyway, great little segment, great little end to that. And I'm going to end it here. This is part 1, ladies and gentlemen. I'll take a quick break, and I'll be back with part 2. So stay tuned for new episodes of the Wrestling Matters podcast, as well as other great professional wrestling related content. Be sure to check out the Wrestling Matters channel on YouTube at www.youtube.com/AJW Wrestling Matters. You'll get weekly episodes of the podcast, and you'll get other great wrestling content as well. Be sure to check it out, subscribe, like, and do all that good stuff. The Wrestling Matters channel, where wrestling matters on YouTube. Be sure to tune in every single Tuesday now for the Wrestling Matters Podcast Extra, where I'll be hosting a podcast on one promotion and one promotion only, ICW, Insane Championship Wrestling, the hottest promotion in Scotland. Well, I'll be reviewing their shows. Oh my God! Talking ICW.
That's 13-14!
And who knows, maybe getting some guests on. So be sure to tune in to the Wrestling Matters Podcast Extra ICW podcast, Insane Championship Wrestling, every Tuesday on YouTube, Podomatic, Stitcher Radio, downloaded free at iTunes, Mixcloud, and SoundCloud. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans.
World, look into my eyes. When you see me on a show, when you see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world. We are ICW, and you're gonna know our name. Here we fucking go!
If you're a fan of the Wrestling Matters Podcast, be sure to check out the Wrestling Matters Podcast Twitter page at WM Podcast for news, reviews, and upcoming episodes, and you will be let know on various other topics as well in the world of professional wrestling. So if you like the Wrestling Matters Podcast, be sure to follow the Wrestling Matters Podcast on Twitter at WM Podcast. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this ICW podcast, Shug's Hoose Party 2. Now we'll go into part 2 of the show, and we kick off with Johnny Moss. Many people may be familiar to him if you're on the British wrestling scene, especially if you're in EPW. Also, he went one-on-one with Grado. Now, this was based off a show they did, I believe was in Newcastle, when these two were tag team partners, and Grado won the match. Well, these two won the match, the tag match they were in, and Grado wanted him to dance with him, but Moss didn't take too kindly to that and beat the crap out of him. So all of that led to this. Grado goes for the windmill, but gets German suplexed. Moss in control. Moss unloads on Grado, hard chops, hard slaps by Moss. Grado throws jabs, then gets belly-to-belly suplexed overhead by Moss. Moss then chokes and whips him hard with a strap. Grado goes for the butt bump, but takes a German suplex by Moss. Grado in trouble. Moss toying with Grado. Grado unloads on Moss in the corner, beating the crap out of him, unloading with chops and rights and whatever. Grado hits 3 rolling slices, aka cannonballs. Grado throwing jabs, then hits an elbow, counter for counter. Moss hits a boot, then Grado hits the F5 and gets a near fall. Moss counters the wee boot, then hits the rock. Then Grado hits the rock bottom, gets a near fall. Grado hits the wee boot, but Moss gets up and hits a clothesline. Moss looks to end it, but a mistake allows Grado to roll him up and get the win. That's right, Grado beat Johnny Moss. A good little match, to be honest with you. I liked it anyway. Now on to what was the low point of the evening. Jackie Polo, This Is Your Life. Probably the shittest segment I have ever seen in the history of pro wrestling. Quite frankly, Jackie Polo, he used to do his chat. He used to do a chat show, and then ICW cancelled it. Mark Dallas cancelled it, so they allowed him to do This Is Your Life on the Shugs Hoose Party 1, and this party was the shittest. This segment rather was the shittest segment I have ever seen in my life. Quite frankly, it was just so poor. He has guests on, which were members of Polo Promotions. He had a guy dressed up as a girl. He had someone dressed up as Stu Hart, which kind of looked like DCT, I don't know. And he had Coach come out there as well. He had the two backstage chicks, Louise and Veronica Lestrange, come out. I don't know. I know Veronica Lestrange is relatively familiar in ICW. Well, more familiar than Louise it was, because she does backstage interviews as well as do the worldwide shows with Billy Kirkwood as well, because I've seen it if you check out ICW online. But these two were like fucking just carrying things for Polo and everything. It was just absolutely poor segment. People were throwing things at them. Simon even said, if you throw another he got on the microphone and said, if you throw another thing you will be ejected, or throw another drink. They nearly caused a riot with this. They even got to the point where they started playing Pass the Parcel. I mean, it was just so poor. I mean, at the end of the day, the segment was based on his feud with Lionheart, which we all know if you watched Barramania. They eventually had the match at Barramania. I mean, this was so poor, so poorly done. It was literally the worst segment ever. And then it eventually ended up getting good because Lionheart eventually comes out and ends it. Said it was the shittest segment he had ever seen. Gets uneasy with him and Polo, because he literally calls Polo out. It says when he gets in from training and gets back to 100%, he said he's literally going to kick Polo's cunt in and all that. And says that Jackie brought his friends with him. Well, ICW Lionheart brought his friends with him, and out came the cast of Steel Game. 3 comedians, very well known in Scotland as well, and I'm sure there's some footage of them on YouTube if you don't know who they are. And they come out to Beautiful Day, not the U2's version of it, some song called Beautiful Day. I know the song because I've actually listened to it myself, and it's actually okay. And as they were coming down the aisle, Veronica and Louise started dancing to the song. What a bunch of suck-ups. They're out there kissing Polo's ass, and then the minute they come out, they start dancing, and fucking losers they are, honest. I hate that shit, I do, honest. Anyway, and members of Steel Game happened to punch Coach Tripp and his 2 clowns. One of them turned around and went, "I've never hit a woman before," and he turned around and went, "Back off, you spooky wee bitch," and all 3 of Steel Game punch Polo's cronies, the Stu Hart, the man dressed up as a woman, and Coach Tripp. They punch all 3, 1 each, lay them out. They get rid of them all, and then Lionheart grabs out of one and hits the rock bottom on him, and they all go back, and then they start to celebrate, and the cast of Steel Games get the crowd to do their theme song, and all you hear was everything was there. It was just so good, and even Lionheart put one up and stuck the V's up at Polo as he was walking up the aisle. He was dancing to it as well, flicking the V's at Polo. It was just so good. That was the best part of that segment. The rest of it sucked. I mean, the This Is Your Life was so fucking poor. It really was. And but it ended on a high note, I'll say that. Right. During the interval, and I use that term loosely, Joe Henry was putting on a concert, a singing concert. doing a cover of Rihanna's We Found Love, calling it We Found Love in Joe Hendry's Face. Yes, you heard me correct, ladies and gentlemen. I did say that, and that's what he called the title. And then he calls, and then he does a version of Backstreet Boys song, I Want It That Way, and does it his way and all that, and uses it to insult Big Damo. And Bobby the barman, the member of the Still Game crew, was at the bar with Damo, and Damo ends up challenging him to a match. And it seemed that Joe accepted, and they all went down the ringside. Kennedy grabs the mic, starts talking, and says he doesn't do things Damo way and does things his way. Damo has enough. Damo hits Tim Wiley with a bro kick, lays him out, and then chases Polo and Williams, chases Kennedy and Williams out of the ring. And then the match with Joe Hendry is on. Good grief. Damo versus Joe Hendry. Hendry tries to attack Damo, no effect. Damo manhandling Joe. Damo cannonball Hendry on the outside, breaking the guardrail. Literally just went through Hendry on the outside, cannonballs him, and they break the guardrail. Hendry dabs on Damo. Hendry hits Freak of Nature, fall away slam on Damo. Hendry, trying to wrestle Damo, hits a single leg dropkick and gets a near fall. Hendry unloading on Damo, but Damo hits a clothesline, then slams him after splashing him, then hits the standing senton and gets a near fall. Damo hits rolling senton and gets a near fall, thanks to Kennedy pulling the referee out. Hendry hits a DDT, gets a near fall. Hendry hits a DVD move and gets a near fall. Kennedy brings the drum that he was using during his concert. Hendry looks to use it on Damo but hits Kennedy instead. Then Damo hits the electric chair drop bomb. Kennedy pulls the ref out again, attacks Damo. Damo forearms him in the face. Then Damo goes for Kenny. Kenny gets out, brings a chair in. Damo hits the bro kick, driving the chair into Hendry's face. Then Kenny sets the chair on Hendry. Damo hits the Van Daminator, which is a version of the Van Daminator. Rob Van Dam, anyone. And then gets the win, and it was the move that actually broke Hendry's nose. Yeah, I think he's actually said this on commentary at one point on one of the shows. It actually broke his nose. And Damo shakes Kenny's hand and they go for a beer, which was just amazing in its own right. It's a lot to get through today, guys. Big show. And he had the beer and everything, and Damo and Kenny went away and had the beer with Bobby the Barman. Like I say, guys, big show to get through. It was a big show, and I'm going to end that there. That was part 2. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, because I'll be back right after this with part 3, the final part, which features the return of a certain WWE superstar. Find out who that is, but I'm sure you all know. Find out who it is after the break, and I'll be back with also a review on Jack Gallagher versus Joe Coffey, the I Quit match that eventually happened, and the ICW title match between Jester and Martin Stone. So stay tuned.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kenny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
They say this is wrestling, but ladies and gentlemen, this is Progress Wrestling, and on July the 1st, Progress Wrestling comes to the Wrestling Matters podcast. That's right, Wednesday, July the 1st, I will present a podcast on Progress Wrestling, starting with Chapter 1, and from every week onwards, I will bring you every single show from that. ProgressWrestling.com, Progress Wrestling on demand service. Progress Wrestling comes to the Wrestling Matters podcast, July the 1st, only on SoundCloud Stitcher Radio, YouTube, and OSW TV. Wrestling matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final part of the ICW podcast presented by Wrestling Matters. Now, this is Shug's House Party 2, Shug's House Party 1, hopefully whetting your appetite for Shug's House Party 2, coming up this weekend, which you no doubt will see on ICW On Demand. Now, I'll continue with part 3. This is part 3, this is the final part, this is the final matches that were on the card. Kid's fight comes out with Carmel, Liam Thompson comes down with a chair, Kid kicks Liam in the chair, then the match is on, the I Quit match. Kid suplexes Liam on the ramp. I Quit match, Kid fight versus Liam Thompson. Carmel gets involved, Liam dives on Kid, Carmel gets involved again. Kid catches Carmel in midair and slams her on the ramp. That metal ramp sucked. Fight on the outside. Liam dived on Kid while Kid on the guardrail fighting the crowd. Kid hotshots Liam on the bar, which is a stun gun move that Stone Cold used to do when he was in WCW. Both men on the bar area. Liam goes for a suplex. Kid throws Liam in the crowd and then dives on Liam on the crowd as well, which is old ECW vibe to that move. Fight goes to the ramp area. Liam throwing Kid in the guardrail, asking him if he quits. Fight back at ringside. Liam in control. Fisherman buster by Kid fight. Kid brings a chair in, sets a chair up on Liam, then drop kicks the chair in the corner on Liam in the corner while the chair was on him. Goes for it again, but Liam throws it in his face. Kid sat on the chair. Liam hits a drop kick from the top. Liam brings a table into the match, sets table up in the corner. Kid hits Liam with wedge chair in the corner, toe to toe in the ring. Liam hits backcracker power slam. Kid goes up top. Kid cuts him off. Liam a suplex rolls through, then power bombs him through the table, and then throws him face first into the chair that was wedged in the corner. Kid ties Liam in the ropes, gives him a chance to quit. Kid looking to use the chair. Liam spits in his face. Carmel comes down to stop Kid using the chair. Kid goes to hit her with it. Carmel goes to hit him with it. The chair bounces off the ropes and hits Carmel in the face. Kid has her in a position, looks like he wants to hit her with the chair. Liam says, "Do it." But Kid has another idea and looks to teabag her. Liam quits. Kid fight wins the match. Kid is gonna just teabag her anyway, but then Liam comes out, attacks him, and Kid hits the hammerlock DDT, which is he gets the arm, puts the arm around the back, and then DDTs him on the mat and everything, and they eventually escape. And Kid fight wins the match and lives up to his promise. The next match after that was Joe Coffey against one Jack Gallagher. And I believe Jack Gallagher's debut in what was a clinic of a wrestling match. Mat wrestling to start, even so far. Jack working the knee, ankle. Also Joe doing push-ups while Jack has him in like an ankle lock position. Joe just doing push-ups. Mat wrestles Jack working the arm. Spear both men on the outside. Jack working the arm, stretching Joe, gets a near fall. Jack drop kicks Joe, no effect. Jack goes for the Thez press. Joe catches him and swings Jack around, then locks in the Boston Crab. Jack ties Joe up in a ball, then Jack kicks him in the ass and gets a near fall. It's a shoot. He actually did do that. Joe hits a pop-up uppercut, rocks Jack. Joe wrestles Jack on the mat, wears him out. Joe hits a drop kick on Jack, gets a near fall, back to wearing Jack out on the mat. A lot of mat wrestling, a lot of clinical catch-as-catch-can stuff in this as well. Joe whips Jack really hard in the corner, and I mean really hard in the corner. Jack very on the receiving end of that. Advantage Joe Coffey. Hard chops by Joe. Hard shots advantage Joe Coffey. Both men get physical. Drop kick rocks Joe. Jack goes on top, hits a headbutt, gets a near fall while Joe was standing, but that headbutt, by the way, wasn't on the floor. Joe hits 2 splashes, then a bulldog. Deadlift, gut wrench, powerbomb gets Joe a near fall. Jack locks armbar off a clothesline attempt. Joe fighting out, powerbombs him and gets a near fall. Headbutt, then a corner drop kick right in the face by Jack, and I mean right in the face. Gets a near fall. Hits a top rope senton and gets a near fall off that. Great match. Alabama airplane spin slam, which is gets him in the Alabama position, the Alabama slam position, spins him around in an airplane spin, and then eventually drops him. Massive clothesline gets Joe a near fall. Discus clothesline gets Joe a victory in what was a great match, and both men hug it out and show respect after the match was over. But yeah, a wrestling clinic, and I actually enjoyed that match. Now for the ICW title match, which saw Jack Jester, the reigning champion, defending against a guy WWE fans might be familiar with, or professional wrestling fans, or British fans in general, one Martin Stone. Martin attacks Jack from behind, unloads. Advantage Jester, clothesline, and bulldog Martin outside. Martin gets whipped hard by Jack into the guardrail. Martin hip toss Jester into the crowd, over the guardrail. Fight in the crowd by the bar stand. Martin strangles Jack with the ICW t-shirt by the bar area. Jack body slams Martin by the bar area, then jumps off the bar, lands an elbow. Fight still in the crowd. Fight back at ringside. Jester gets a near fall. Or fight back in the ring, I should say. Jester gets a near fall. Martin hits a clothesline, gets a near fall. Unloads on Jester. Martin wearing out Jack Jester on the mat. Jack gets clothesline to the outside. Then Jack heads bounces off the ramp by Martin. Elbow drop, gets a near fall in the ring. Advantage Martin Stone. Martin getting quick near falls, like move then fall, move then fall, move then fall. Martin throws Jack off the top rope, toe to toe in the ring, throwing right. Jack hits a pedigree, hanging pedigree, which is, he gets him in the pedigree position, lifts him up like if he was going to do like a Chris Redfield's finishing move, the T-Virus, but Martin takes a face bump and, like I said, Jack gets a near fall off it. Martin hits a drop kick off the top, then two clotheslines and gets a near fall. Jester fights back. Martin hits a hard right that rocks Jester and gets a near fall off it. Martin looks to use Jack's weapon. Jack counters Martin and hits Martin hits the Ace Crusher and gets a near fall. Jack then hits his tombstone and wins the match and retains the ICW title. Now for the story of the match, which I will leave what happens. If you want to see what happens and you haven't got ICW on demand, I will show you what happens, because the link will be in the description on YouTube, because the video to this is actually on YouTube, on the ICW Online YouTube page. So I will leave the link to the ICW Online YouTube page, as well as the video of the epic speech and what happens, the fallout from Jack beating Martin Stone. But I'll read it here. Jack celebrates in the ring. Martin shows respect and Jack thumbs up and shows it back. NAK come down. Jester and Jump Jester, they put a beat down on him. Chris comes out with a ref and says he's going to cash in. Says to Jester he's going to do it with his brothers, surrounded by his brothers, and says Jack has no friends left. Light goes out. The lights come back on. A big 6'5" wrestler standing in the ring with a hoodie. He takes the hoodie off. It's Drew Galloway. He fights off the NAK, and at one point even beats the crap. And at one point the NAK actually have him in the corner, but Drew's too strong for them, and he gets out and he takes them out one by one. Even beats the piss out of BT Gunn in the corner. Takes out Diver. It takes out Darkside. Takes out Renfrew. Renfrew's going to hit him with the briefcase, and Drew hits him with a single leg drop kick and takes out Divers as well, and then hits the Future Shock on BT Gunn in there. Jester is in tears, and the crowd are sulking in this moment, chanting ICW, because this was an awesome moment. Drew and Jack celebrate in the ring and hug it out, and that crowd chant welcome home. Both men are on the stage, Jester in the crowd. Then Drew kicks Jack, lays him out on the stage, and introduces himself and begins this epic speech that I will show you if you check it out on the YouTube page, the SoundCloud page as well. Be sure to check this out, guys, if you haven't seen it, which I'm sure you all have seen it, but if you haven't, you need to check it out. It's recommended. Drew says to Jack that he has something to say and says he should stay down, but Jack keeps on coming back up. Drew keeps on kicking him. Then Drew picks him up and body slams him off the stage, through a table, onto the floor below, and Drew said that he asked Jack to stop, and he didn't want to do that, but he had to do it. Drew then gives his famous speech, talks about 13-14, his moment where he asked himself if he still wanted to be in wrestling, and makes the announcement, and even has a pop at WWE and says 13-14 is Drew leading ICW and getting ICW on television. He believes that he can take ICW forward and become the next ICW champion, and with that, taking him being the leader, the new leader of ICW, and being the ICW champion, he needed the ICW belt. I believe this was the Stand Up for Professional Wrestling movement was born here. Warns the wrestling world that ICW is coming and tells them to get ready. And like I say, if you want to see the whole speech in its entirety, I will leave a link in the description as well on SoundCloud, YouTube. It'll be on OSW TV as well, oswtv.co.uk, Only Scottish Wrestling. Be sure to check them out. And I'm also considering going on Mixcloud, guys. I'm not on Podomatic. I'm also considering going on Mixcloud, but I'll have a think about that this week. For the rest of this week, I'll think about it the rest of this week. And I'll do some more research on that. I've been tempted to go on Mixcloud, but it hasn't, come to a virtue. But I'm thinking I'm on SoundCloud. Maybe I need one more space as well, like Mixcloud and that. I'm on Stitcher Radio. Check that out. All being well, and be sure to all check that out as well, where you can hear it. And by the way, you can download this, and you'll be able to download this as well as other episodes of the Wrestling Matters podcast on my SoundCloud account. Check it out, soundcloud.com/wrestling_matters_podcast. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I will give this a 5 out of 5 as a rating. Question is, can number 2 top it? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anthony Walker. Be sure to check out the other episodes of the Wrestling Matters podcast, the one that went out on Monday, and the Progress Wrestling podcast, which is out tomorrow. And until then, peace out.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
Professional wrestling! This is it! This is us standing up! Yes! 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 That's 13-14!
Dina, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.